Hi everyone. Okay, so we're going to go back to what we were working on Friday, the Who Rules assignment. I have it here with me, and we're going to start. I'm going to reread the parts just to make sure that people who didn't get in the Zoom get a chance to read it with us. If you want to skip ahead to when we start working out the problems, you can, but I'm going to read it now. Someone's got to be in charge. If you compared all of the governments in the world, you would find one thing in common. Someone is in charge. The question is, who? There are many different forms of government. Some have one leader who has all the control. Others give power to the people. Here are some forms of government that exist or have existed in the world. Me, myself, and I. First, we're going to talk about autocracy. An autocracy is a government in which one person has all the power. There are two main types of autocracy, a monarchy and dictatorship. In a monarchy, a king or queen rules the country. The king or queen is known as a monarch. Monarchs usually come to power through the family line. The current king or queen's oldest child becomes the next king or queen. In some monarchies, especially those in historical times, the monarch held all the power and had the final say over the government. In modern times, monarchs usually share power with other parts of government. Often, they are also subject to the country's constitution. So we said in class an example of a monarchy would be Queen of England, the Queen of Elizabeth II in England is an example of a monarchy. She's a queen. Dictatorship. A dictatorship is a form of government where one leader has absolute control over citizens' lives. If there is a constitution, the dictator has control over that too. So it doesn't mean much. Although other parts of the government may exist, such as courts or a lawmaking body, these branches always do what the dictator wants them to. They do not represent citizens. So we set an example of a dictatorship. One of the most famous ones is Adolf Hitler in Germany. Okay. So let's do power to the people. So power to the people talks about democracy, and then it's going to give us two examples. In a democracy, citizens hold the political power. There are two fundamental types of democracy. In a representative democracy, focus on that word representative, citizens elect leaders to represent their rights and interests in government. The elected leaders, or representatives, do the day-to-day work for governing the country. They consider the issues, work to find solutions, pass laws, and do all the other things necessary to keep a country going. Citizens hold the ultimate power, though, because if they don't like what their representatives are doing, they can vote in new ones. So this part we wanted to reiterate, like we did in class, that citizens are electing these leaders to represent them. That's why it's called representative democracy, because somebody is representing the citizen. And if you do not like what your representative is doing, you can vote in a new representative. So let's go down to in a direct democracy. In a direct democracy, there are no representatives. Citizens are directly involved in the day-to-day work of governing the country. Citizens might be required to participate in lawmaking or act as judges, for example. The best example of this was in the ancient Greek city-state called Athens. Most modern countries are too large for a direct democracy to work. So the difference between a direct democracy and a representative democracy is that a direct democracy does not have representatives. So in a representative democracy, there's going to be people that are representing you. In a direct democracy, there won't be. And one of the reasons that they don't use direct democracy anymore is because countries are too large now for it to work efficiently. Let's turn the page. Okay, well, starting with we, ourselves, and us. In an oligarchy, a small group of people has all the power. Oligarchy is a Greek word that means rule by a few. Sometimes this means only a certain group has political rights, such as the members of one political party, one social class, or one race. For example, in some societies, only noble families who owned land could participate in politics. An oligarchy can also mean that a few people control the country. For example, a junta, which is a type of oligarchy, is a small group of people, usually military officials or officers, who rule a country after taking it over by force. A junta often operates much like a dictatorship, except there are several people who share power. So the main difference between an oligarchy and a dictatorship is that in an oligarchy, there's a few people running it. In a dictatorship, there's one sole person. Okay, so let's move on to religious rule. A theocracy is a government that recognizes God or a divine being as the ultimate authority. Theo is a Greek word that means God. In a theocracy, religious law is used to settle disputes and rule the people. A theocracy can also be a democracy, a dictatorship, monarchy, or just about any other kind of government. For example, the Republic of Iran recognizes Islamic law, but Iran's citizens vote to elect their leaders. Modern theocracies are usually found in countries where the population is strongly religious. So remember that a theocracy focuses on God or religion. Lastly, we have rule by none, anarchy. So in an anarchy, nobody is in control, or everyone is, depending on how you look at it. Sometimes the word anarchy is used to refer to an out-of-control mob. When it comes to government, anarchy would be one way to describe the human state of existence before any governments developed. It would be similar to the way animals live in the world, with everyone looking out for themselves. Today, people who call themselves anarchists usually believe that people should be allowed to freely associate without being subjected to any nation or government. There are no countries that have anarchy as their form of government. So we said in class, an anarchy means that no one is in control. Everybody is doing what they want to do. And one of the problems people would have, or one of the reasons some people don't have this anymore, is because when everybody's doing what they want to do, things normally don't work out. So here's a small picture of what we've kind of gone through. It gives you the main layers. Anarchy has no one in control. Monarchy has one person. Oligarchy has a few. And all of them are for democracy. It gives you the types. So let's move on to the questions.